This is the Cryptic Creatures Podcast. I am Brian, and with me as always is my co-host Todd. What's going on, buddy?
Man, how you doing today?
Fantastic.
Me too, even though with all this snow and cold weather.
I know, I'm over winter. It needs to go away now.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I was going to ask you, who you rooting for the Super Bowl? You got a team? Do you care either way?
I don't really care either way, but I don't want the Rams to win it.
No? Like to see the Bengals and Joe Burrow do it, huh?
Yeah. My son seems to like the Bengals, so we'll
cool.
go that way.
Right. So today, Brian, we do not have a guest today. That's by choice, actually. We decided to talk about, as you know, do another missing episode.
Right, it's been a while since we've done one of those, and people seem to like them, so we're gonna continue on with it.
Yeah. Our format and our thought is, we're going to do some episodes on missing people. Some people were never discovered, never found. Some people, parts of them have found or were discovered, but their circumstances are very strange, very unusual, and they don't fit any kind of normal pattern where they were proven to be
abducted by people.
Yeah, or the mystery wasn't solved. They didn't say for sure what happened to these people. They don't know.
No cause of death, no nothing. Yeah.
So there's just a lot of strange circumstances that fall into these missing episodes that we do. And the reason we're into it is because we do like the suspenseful kind of things, but we also a little bit allude to the fact that there's some things out there in the woods that people just don't know about, and these things or whatever's out there could be causing these people's demise. We're not saying that's 100% true, but you've got to consider it a little bit based on the circumstances of these people's disappearance. Yeah,
and we're not doing these to try and prove anything. We're just trying to get you guys thinking and maybe start a little conversation and
maybe lead to something, right?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I mean, how cool would it be if we did a missing episode and some people started talking about it on our Facebook or group page or whatever, listening to it and kind of had some ideas or turned on to something where these could be solved. Now, that would be cool.
Right,
obviously.
that'd be awesome.
But we're not trying to play detective here and say this is what happened, that's what happened. We're just going to talk about it and theorize about it. And
we're just going to present the evidence as we know it.
So today we're going to talk about Dr. James McGrogan. Dr. James McGrogan actually was a doctor in Chesterton, Indiana, Brian, which is close to us, believe it or not, I believe.
Well, he was going to be.
He was going to be? Working to be a doctor?
He just taken the job.
Okay, gotcha.
In Indiana. He was in Colorado.
Dr. James and a couple buddies, don't have their names.
I didn't get their names either, but there were 3 of them and him. So there were 4 of them.
Okay. They go out to Vail, Colorado to do some skiing and some hiking. So people know what I've heard about Dr. James is, we'll just call him James. He was an avid outdoorsman. He was in great shape. He was 39 years old, probably the best shape of his life. These guys were saying. So
he had done some marathon running, so he was in good shape.
He was more gung-ho into this than I think his buddies were. So basically what happened was they went and rented, I think they rented these things called split boards.
Split boards, yeah.
And I didn't know what that was.
It's like a snowboard that splits into 2 so you can ski.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cross-country skiing.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, so they were in Eagle County, Colorado on a heavily trafficked trail. Their plan was to hike out of this area they were at, this resort, and hike to this place called Iceman Hut.
Right. Which is a cabin.
These guys all took off, did their thing. They were all staying together, and the other 3 guys decided, hey, we need to take a break. We're out of breath. We want to rest a minute. Dr. James says, you know what? I'm going to keep pushing on because I'm in shape. I want to make this a workout. I don't want to stop and rest, keep my heart rate up, whatever his reason was, and he went on.
Right. So he said, I will meet you guys at that cabin.
Yeah, he was going to meet them at the Iceman Hut.
Right.
Was the plan. He trudges on. They stay there, take their break. They go on to the next meeting point. I guess there was another spot, a resting spot before the hut, and he's not there. So they just assume that he's trekked on to the hut.
He went on all the way.
I don't know if they could tell by footprints. I heard that this trail was heavily groomed. It was in good shape. It was hard to
heavily packed down because it was well used.
And to lose the trail was almost impossible, they were
Right.
saying, because it's just so obvious and so well groomed. I don't know if James knew this area or had hiked this area before. I don't believe he had. Nonetheless, the weird thing about it, we'll talk about that in a minute, but the guys get onto Iceman Hut, and there's no James there.
Right.
So they don't know at this point where he's at. I think they tried calling him. The guy has a cell phone.
And cell phone, I think he had a GPS too.
He had a GPS, yes. He had a survival kit with him.
I mean, he was packed. He was loaded. He had safety. He had first aid stuff. He had food. He had water. He had another blanket, I think they said he had in there. Yeah, he was ready. I mean, he was loaded.
He was well prepared for sure. He had everything he needed. He had water. I don't believe he had a weapon on him. I'm sure he had a knife or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think he had a gun.
So the guys get to Iceman Hut. James isn't there. What's going on? They try calling him. No answer. So I think they waited a little bit. I don't know how long they waited before they got a search party out, but I think they had to wait.
I think it was a couple hours. One of the guys headed back down the mountain.
Oh, did he? Okay. So they start a search party. The guy had operational GPS, survival kit. He had taken survival courses, I guess, too. That's how avid he was about being out in the woods and all this stuff. You know, he was a gung-ho outdoorsman. They start searching for him. I guess there was helicopters out there looking. Dogs were out there looking.
Yeah, they had the whole kit and caboodle.
I don't believe they brought in National Guard or anything like that.
I don't think so. I think it was all pretty much local searchers.
Yeah. What happened to James? Where's he at? You know, this guy just disappears. So they search for like 5 days for this guy.
Right.
And nothing.
Yeah.
Like no footprints really. I don't know. I guess it's probably snowing, and any kind of prints that would have been left would have been covered up quickly.
Yeah, they'd been gone.
Or the wind blowing would have blown it. So forget that method. So they search for him for 5 days, and they can't find the dude. They call his cell phone. No answer.
Right.
I think they tried to. I don't know if they could ping his GPS or not. Maybe they couldn't. Obviously, they couldn't, or they probably would have found him at that point. Mm-hmm. But here this guy is. An avid outdoorsman, gung-ho survivalist kind of guy, a doctor, a smart man. Mm-hmm. And he just disappears out there outside of Colorado with everything on him.
Yeah, with everything needed to survive.
Now, had he lost this stuff early on and got disoriented and away from himself and not had his gear with him, I get it 100%. But that's not what happened.
Right.
They found this guy. They found remains of this guy. They did find him 20 days later, right?
4.5 miles away from where he was last seen.
As the crow flies, 4.5 miles.
Right.
Well, I think they were saying the terrain that he had to go up and down, he would have probably walked more like 16 miles.
I wrote it down. It was, first of all, he had to have gone off trail and gone straight up 1,296 feet. That's the first thing he would have had to do. Then he would have had to made a 1,000-foot descent to the valley where Middle Creek is. So he had to cross the creek and then go up another 1,130 feet about to the top of Mount Baldy and then go down from there on the other side.
And that's where they found him.
And that's where they found him.
Yeah. The weird thing is they had searched that area, I guess, where they found him earlier that week or those 5-day period. Searchers had said they searched that area and he wasn't there. Yeah. He was not there when they looked there. The weird thing is, like you said, how does a human body kind of go through that kind of terrain in that kind of weather and make it that far without freezing, succumbing to the weather, all that stuff? And why? Why would he decide to go up a mountain, down a mountain, up another mountain, then kind of into a ravine or whatever it was, thousands of feet, thousands of feet tall? The guy's got a GPS on him. So when they find the guy...
A cell phone.
Yeah.
When they found him, the area they found him in had cell phone service.
Yes. Cell phone service. He had a cell phone with a backup battery. I guess they put the battery in that phone and it turned on, and he could have made a call from there.
Yeah.
He had a GPS on him. That worked. Mm-hmm. Think he had a helmet on.
He had a helmet.
But he didn't have any boots.
Nope.
I think his boots were gone, his coat was gone, and he didn't have any gloves when they found him.
Yeah.
He had major head trauma, but yet he had a helmet on.
But he had a helmet. He had a broken femur, which is the biggest bone in the body, which is the hardest bone to break.
And they found
And he had something, or broken ribs, or something happened to his side. He had some kind of trauma to his side.
They found him laying on like a sheet of ice on
Right, because the falls there were frozen. It was winter.
Yeah, it was at the bottom of the falls or something like that.
He was laying on ice out right at the open.
Yeah. Now, did he fall from the falls and that's what killed him? I don't know if they... I don't think they... The coroner had stated he thought it was an accidental fall, but I don't think that's necessarily went on the record. Again, I don't understand the head trauma of wearing a helmet unless he fell from a really high height.
Really high height.
And hit head first. Which is possible. But again, it still doesn't explain why he was there, how he got there.
Sure. So, and all that would have had to have happened when he got to that point. Otherwise, he'd never make that hike from one side to the other with a broken leg.
No.
You're never going to make it that far.
No. Again, he had cell service. He was a smart man. He had a GPS. He could have just... a doctor. That GPS could have just... I mean, I think they checked all that stuff. They worked.
Yeah.
He had a reception where he was at, where they found his body.
Yeah, because they took all that stuff back to the place they rented it. And it all worked.
I think he still had his survival kit with him. Mm-hmm. But again, so signs of hypothermia, one of the biggest signs of hypothermia is people start taking their clothes off. Why would you take
your boots off?
I would take everything but my boots off if I was going to relieve myself of some clothing and I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
especially when you're on mountains and rocks.
I mean, I don't get that. And we hear that so much with these things. And one theory is someone said, well, they may have lost their gloves or their gloves wasn't keeping their hands warm enough, so they took their shoes off to put their hands in their boots for a little bit, and then, they just trenched on without them. Well, that doesn't make any sense either. Mm-hmm. Why would you take off your boots? Unless your feet were on fire or you thought they were on fire because that's where I don't know. I don't get hypothermia. I don't know how it works. I don't understand all that.
I've never had it. I don't want to be in that situation.
But just weird stuff going on here with this guy. Yeah, he had medical supplies in there.
Unless he was somewhere where he was stopped for the night and he was just taking his boots off to warm up. Maybe he made a fire, but they didn't find any fire pits or anything. Or maybe he was stopped. Maybe he was surprised by someone or something and didn't have time to put his boots on. I don't know.
I don't think they found his boots, did they? Mm-hmm. They never found him because they know the path that he had to take based on where he was at.
Yeah.
Based on the time frame of when he came up missing, and I know they found him 20 days later. Did he take that long to get from A to B? And when they searched the area the first time, that's why he wasn't there yet?
Right.
Why wouldn't you call? Why wouldn't you text? Why wouldn't you hit your GPS and say, oh, man, I got to turn right here and head south back to camp?
Yeah. Because at some point when he was going up over the mountains, the peaks, at some point at that top spot, they're going to have cell service. Yeah. They even proved it when they found him.
Yeah. And any survivalist knows, I know just by watching shows, that if you're lost in the woods, the best thing to do is get down to a creek or a river and follow that to a road. Eventually you'll hit something or a town. To go up and down a mountain range isn't going to work for you. I thought maybe he was trying to get on top of the mountain to get a look and see where he was at, but you really can't tell.
Mm-mm. No, you can't tell distance or anything from there.
So when he hit that first creek that you had mentioned, why didn't he just follow it? Follow the flow of the river. It has to flow back toward probably Vail or wherever he was at. And he, being a survivalist and taking survivalist courses, would have known that.
Right.
So I don't know that James got from A to B on his own, if you know what I'm saying. I'm thinking maybe something helped him along the way or took him there.
Someone or something.
What was that? Was the guy?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Was the guy picked up by a UFO, dropped off 5 days later, and then just never made it out? Did his... Again, I keep saying maybe his GPS quit working, but I think they tested that stuff and it still worked.
Well, they turned the phone on when they found him. That worked.
It's almost like the guy wanted himself to perish. It just makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
He had a severe head injury and chest injury, too. Even with the helmet on, maybe he hit himself so bad. But did they ever...
I mean, those helmets that they wear, they're not like big motorcycle helmets. I mean,
Did they ever
I
say
guess
that
if you hit a big enough rock hard enough?
they ruled it maybe an accidental fall, but they don't know that they ever really said that they thought he fell from those. They didn't talk about that. Or I think what it was the falls they weren't huge falls, and I think they kind of step tiered. So there's really no way to fall down them. You'd have to fall, then walk out, fall to the next ledge, fall to the next ledge. I don't have much more on him other than we can sit here and speculate about this guy. But it just doesn't make sense, you know?
So, yeah, you guys put your thinking caps on this one, because this is definitely a weird one.
Yeah, if you guys get a chance, look that guy up. We are going to talk about another missing here. We're going to talk about Jaryd Atadero.
Jaryd Atadero.
This is a sad, unfortunate one because he was a kid.
Yeah, he went missing October 2nd, 1999.
And
3.
This is in Fort Collins, around the Fort Collins area. So, again, Colorado. He was 3 years old. Is that what you said, Brian?
Yep.
3 years old.
3 years old at the time.
The weird thing is about this, and we'll get into this later, is when they interviewed the father about this later on, he had pulled out a box of things that were Jaryd's, and in that box he had a toy tank that I think Jaryd was playing with that day, an Oakland Raiders hat that he had on, and the top of his son's skull is what he had in this box. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So, yes, they found remains of Jaryd.
All we had left.
Unfortunately. But the circumstances surrounding this poor kid and his situation is very, very strange. And Jaryd Atadero went missing on the trail west of Fort Collins in 1999. His father experienced a parent's worst fear when his 3-year-old son went missing while hiking with a group in the Big South Trail in Roosevelt National Forest, 60 miles west of Fort Collins. Adding to the case's intrigue, and I don't know if you know this or not, Brian, but adding to the case's intrigue, a search helicopter crashed while looking for Jaryd.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. I think all 4 guys on board survived, but apparently like when they were lifting up, something about they didn't get enough power or something. I don't know what was going on, the wind, and they kind of had to just like jam themselves into the trees. So that kind of put a damper on the search a little bit there. So they go out, they look for this kid, and we'll get into more of that and what happened, what was going on. But then on June 4th, 2003, 4 years later, 2 hikers from Fort Collins stumbled upon 200-plus trained searchers, a water dive team, a dozen dog teams, professional trackers, and a search plane could not. Jaryd Atadero, or what remained of him.
Right.
It's one of Colorado's most infamous unsolved mysteries, emotional story, a story of a grieving father. Basically, Jaryd and his dad and his sister, I think they owned a camping place out there.
They had a little store at some resort out there.
So they ran that and stayed there. So on Saturday, October 2nd, 1999, Alan Atadero and his children, Jaryd and his 6-year-old Jocelyn, were at the Padre River Resort, owned by Alan and his twin brother, Arlen. The kids were anxious to go on an excursion to the nearby state fish hatchery with members of the Christian Singles Network group, of which Alan, who was divorced from the children's mother, was a member. So a Christian singles group comes up to stay at the place. Alan's running. They're going to go on a hike. They take young Jaryd with them, and Alan stays back.
Now, they were only supposed to go to that fish place, but they ended up going 15 miles down the road farther to that Big South Trail.
Well, they did. Okay.
Yeah.
They changed their minds, huh?
Yep.
Okay. So they drove to this place.
Because when they came back and got him, they were like, hey, we got to go up here. And he's like, how far? 15 miles. And he's like, why did you guys go that far?
Out in the middle
They
of
weren't
nowhere.
supposed to go that far. Yeah.
Okay. It says Alan was reluctant to let Jaryd go, but when the group said that they would only be going to the hatchery, yeah, I'm reading this here, he consented. But from there, the 11 members of the Christian group decided to take an early afternoon hike up the Big South Trail, 15 miles west of the resort. Yep.
See?
So it says, though reports vary on what happened next, it is generally believed the group split into faster and slower paced groups in the 11-mile trail,
Right.
located at
Which makes
8,000
sense.
located at 8,440 feet in the rugged Comanche Peak wilderness. Eventually crosses into the Rocky Mountain National Park. So then about 1.5 miles up the trail, it says Jaryd ran ahead of the group and talked to 2 fishermen who didn't think much about Jaryd being alone since they told investigators they saw a group about 50 to 80 feet down the trail, according to Larmer County Search and Rescue Report. The last the fishermen saw of Jaryd, he was walking rapidly up the trail adjacent to the Camp 2 sign, indicating the second of 16 backcountry campsites along the trail. So these fishermen see this kid supposedly.
Right.
And
And they
tell-
said he'd stop and talk to him.
They saw people down the trail coming. They thought he was with that group, and they didn't pay any attention to him, and he went on, supposedly.
Right.
It says some members of the 11-person hiking party reported hearing a scream. Jocelyn, Jaryd's sister, also told her dad that she did too. It says, what kind of scream was it? It was like somebody getting attacked or somebody playing with someone, he said. It sounded like a playful scream. So like something startled, you know how you get that startled scare scream, but don't feel like you're in danger. You're just like, oh, that kind of thing.
Right.
Like a surprise kind of scream.
Like if you would jump out and scare a little kid.
Yep. And he'd giggle and laugh after he screamed, and you got me. It says, after realizing Jaryd was missing and searching for him for about an hour, 2 members of the group returned to the resort to tell Alan. Alan jumped in his vehicle, drove to the trailhead, looking for his kid. He was frantic. He realized he wasn't going to find his kid by himself. Sheriff's deputy and the Larmer County Search and Rescue team arrived, followed by more. Alan thought they would find him, but they didn't. And then they hear the helicopter crash on Sunday morning. The helicopter returned. It struggled with the fuel load and mountain conditions and stalled out, falling 100 feet and crashing up the Big South Trail. Aboard were 4 members of the Air Force and Mark Sheets, a Loveland resident and Larmer County Search and Rescue member. But I think these guys actually survived.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
That kind of hindered the search a little bit, obviously. It says as the search stretched into the 3rd day, searchers combed over riverbanks and up steep slopes. Dive teams peered into small pools up the narrow, slow-moving river. A plane made passes overhead. Theories as to what happened to Jaryd were expanding from rational possibilities: killed by a predator, fell behind boulders and died, drowned in the river, to the less plausible but still possible theory of abduction, to strange conspiracy theories. Alan and his family were certain that Jaryd had been abducted because we couldn't find him. Investigators questioned everyone from Alan to the members of the Christian Singles group to the fishermen who were presumably the last to see Jaryd. They talked to Alan's ex-wife, who was living in San Diego, who came up to Colorado after hearing Jaryd was lost. No red flags. I would have thought those fishermen would have had something to do with it. That one right there kind of made me think a little bit.
That's what I was thinking too. Anybody question those fishermen?
They did. They didn't feel like they were suspicious enough, I guess.
You know what gets me about this is when they found his clothes, they're saying that they think it was a mountain lion that grabbed him, drug him up the mountain. When they found his clothes, there was no blood. They were not shredded like he was jumped off by a mountain lion.
Those two hikers that found him after the search party, they were just up hiking on their own. I think that was 4 years later, right? Yeah. I think they found, what they found was, they found some clothing. I think they found a coat and some pants. The pants were tattered, and that's why people think that they were done by a mountain lion, but they were inside out.
Right.
Like they were pulled off of him.
They were taken off. Yep.
The holes you can say were made by varmints or insects or something after the fact.
Birds, rodents, something making the nesting stuff.
Because it was made out of a cotton material that those animals are like. Again, no blood on the pants. So if people want to say, well, those are bite marks from a mountain lion. Well, where's the blood? There would be blood there. 100% blood there. And there was no blood.
Absolutely.
They found his shoes also, right?
Yep.
His shoes
were fine.
Almost mint condition.
No blood on them. Yep.
Which was weird.
And if he was being drug up a mountain, that'd be pretty scuffed up.
Yeah. And where they found him were in different locations, tucked near rocks or under rocks or something. Something like they had something put it there. But they were like, didn't look any different than the day
somebody just kicked him off.
Yeah. So you'd think weather over 4 years and being in the woods, those things would look terrible. They'd be black. You wouldn't even barely recognize a shoe. You take a shoe, you set it out in the woods for 4 years, and you go back, it's not going to look like it did when you took it out of the box or when you were wearing them last. There's no freaking way. That's what gets me right there. Those were put there later on. And a mountain lion doesn't do that shit.
No.
Doesn't keep souvenirs and go put them back where he found them or whatever.
Right.
There's only about 1 or 2 things that can do that I know of. Maybe 3. Humans, aliens, and maybe Sasquatch.
Maybe.
There are people who wanted to point out the abduction conspiracy, but nothing fell in line with it because they were saying, how could you capture the kid in the woods in this short a time frame and then have gotten out without anybody seeing you? There's only one easy way out of the narrow canyon, back down the trail. On the day of Jaryd's appearance, one of the first searchers quickly hiked up to where the snow covered the trail and saw no tracks. Hiking out either side of the narrow canyon would require a climb of 1,000 to nearly 2,000 vertical feet through the thick trees and down logs on a 45-degree slope. So what they're saying is the only way to get in and out of there is on the trail, or you're a master of the woods.
Right.
You had to traverse up and down slope. There was no footprints in the snow alluding to someone going that way.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're saying is no one, if someone did grab him, they didn't come out of here. They didn't leave here. And the only other alternative was deep thicket of woods and cliffs. So, kind of leads you back to was not human, right?
That's the way it comes.
And the mountain lion theory, in my mind, is blown out of the water because there would be blood.
Yeah,
there would be blood on those clothes.
There would have been tissue. There would have been something, some bits and pieces of something.
Right. So it says, as the search continued with no signs of Jaryd, the mountain lion attack theory became officials' prevailing thought. There were mountain lion prints found in the area, but nothing conclusive to indicate Jaryd might have been killed along the trail. So they did see some tracks. There are mountain lions up there, but they didn't see any, like where he dragged something off, or even if he would have carried something, you would have seen some drag marks of something, his feet or something like that. Yeah. So it says on June 4th, 2003, 4 years later, businessmen and hiking partners Gary Watts and Rob Osborne were hiking off the trail on the Big South Trail where they stumbled upon a white Tarzan tennis shoe in a tallest slope, 500 vertical feet above the trail. So they found his shoe. Then they found
500 feet above the trail.
Yeah. Yeah. So
through a boulder field.
Right.
A 3-year-old's going to make that climb.
Yeah. No. They found the other shoe, a brown fleece jacket and blue sweatpants turned inside out. One pant leg was mostly scattered by birds using the material in their nest. So it says right there, they know birds were picking at his pants, and that's why it was tattered and had holes in it.
Right.
It says Watson Osborne knew instantly what they had discovered. Once we saw the clothes, and we knew exactly what happened to him. They say a mountain lion killed him. But again, no blood on the clothes. I don't get how that happens.
Not either.
You know, let's just say for the sake that it was a mountain lion. If a mountain lion is going to attack anything, especially a 3-year-old kid, it's not going to like drag him around for a while and then kill him and eat him later. And there's going to be blood.
Probably a lot of blood.
A mountain lion is not going to peel your clothes off.
No.
To your bare skin so it can eat you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to go at it and rip. It's going to rip and tear it. Those pants would have been in a lot worse shape than they were. They would have had blood on them. His coat would have been the same way. His shoes would have had blood on them. Right. And I keep going back to the shoe thing. That is so weird to me because they were in like great condition when they found them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they weren't dirty, but you know what happens if something you leave set outside for 4 years in the woods. I don't care what it is. Especially a shoe.
It's gonna be weathered.
Searchers also found later on a log, his
this is the weird part.
skull cap and a tooth. I believe
that shit laying around.
And that was also in an area they had searched prior, and that wasn't there then.
Right.
You know, when these guys go out searching for stuff, they're looking hot and heavy, and they're looking at everything, you know, and they're going to know, yeah, I looked there. I know I looked there. Mm-hmm. That was not there before. You're talking about people's lives, a 3-year-old kid's lives. You're going to pay attention. You're going to look if you're searching for somebody. That's your job.
Absolutely.
It says DNA test found that they were Jaryd's. They had to wait till DNA technology improved, but they said they were 100% Jaryd's remains. According to Larimer County Search and Rescue report, searchers on foot had never made it to the 9,100 elevation at Jaryd's. Oh, I'm sorry. Jaryd's skull and tooth were found at 9,120 feet elevation. The Air Force helicopter would have likely searched the area had it not crashed. Well, you're not going to see.
That's a big climb.
You're not going to see a skull and a tooth in a helicopter, but 9,000 feet up. So, where they found his clothes and shoes, completely different. Where they found his skull and his.
That was only 500 feet up.
Yeah. So you go another 9,000 feet up. Is that what I'm reading here?
Yeah.
And then they find a skull and so.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
And it wasn't under a log. It wasn't behind a log. It wasn't hidden. It was on top of the log.
Placed like it was placed there.
Mm-hmm.
So again, let's say for the sake of whatever, it was a mountain lion. He takes the kid up 500 feet, does his business. Does he take the remains on up 9,000 feet and finish him off and then decide it's going to place the skull and the tooth on a log beside each other? Did it throw Jaryd on the log and just eat him right there? And that's what? No, there would have been other remains there.
No, there would have been more than just that.
Something placed those there. So again, you want to go back to, okay, this
someone or something.
Someone or something.
Be fair.
Could have been someone. What is a dude doing up there 9,000 feet? Mm-hmm. Dropping off shoes here, dropping off a skull and a tooth here, and why? I know people are sick and demented, but it just doesn't add up.
Right.
Again,
yeah, none of it does.
There was no tracks going out or in, or people didn't pass anybody. So whatever took Jaryd had to go up that boulder cliff or whatever. No man can climb that cliff.
And who knows? And I hate to say this, but I'm gonna. And who knows what they're hiding from their findings? You know what I mean?
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
Who knows what they're not telling us?
I know exactly what you mean. I think you and I both feel the same, that there are...
I'm not taking anything away from the search and rescue people. They do a fantastic job. God bless them. But who knows what the authorities aren't letting out. You know?
Yeah. And by no means are we trying to, ridicule anything this or bring this up or upset the families of these people. We're just trying to make...
That's the last thing we want to do.
Right. We're trying to help make people more aware of these missing abductions that are strange. You cannot pinpoint down that a human did this. In fact, it doesn't say or point to humans doing it. It points to something else, something much more agile, powerful, what have you. If a person did this to anybody, let alone this poor kid, why would he leave any evidence?
They wouldn't.
You wouldn't. You wouldn't leave shoes. You wouldn't leave clothes. You wouldn't put a skull cap and a tooth on a log.
On a log and leave it. Yeah.
Unless you're just a sick, twisted asshole, right?
Right. Yep.
Again, okay, so you say, well, I was drug off by a bear or a mountain lion. Well, then where's the blood?
Right. Where's any kind of tissue that would be ripped off a body? Nothing
punctured those pants enough, but not enough to puncture skin. And again, the pants were inside out, so they were taken off him somehow, some way. Could it be Bigfoot creatures, Sasquatch creatures? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it could. I don't want to look at these things as being deadly or this way, but it is very possible because you cannot tie this back to this is an unsolved case. All these cases are
exactly. Yeah, all of them. And maybe, and we talked about this before, it could have been maybe the Sasquatch lost a child and they're trying to replace it. Who knows?
Could be. You want to think that these creatures, if this is happening, you want to think these creatures are more docile and more caring for others, as so to speak, or more, human-like in that aspect. But you just don't know. If they're out there, they are animals, right?
Yeah.
They are animals, and they're curious.
They're wild animals, yeah.
I mean, I've said this before.
They don't know anything about us.
No, they're just as curious about us as we are about them. Dude, if you and me were running around in the woods and a baby Sasquatch was right there in front of us, what do you think we're going to do? Grab it. Let's take it.
Yeah. Let's raise it as our own.
Let's see what we can do. Let's see what this thing is. Absolutely.
What does it eat? We don't know.
Right. Those
Same
things
thing
are
with a human child. They don't know what this kid going to live on. You know,
yeah.
Our gut is totally different than I'm guessing theirs.
And this is the second story we've done on a child abduction on these missing series too. So it's more common than not. But we've got more missing episodes coming up. We've got more guys to talk about. But again, if you guys have any ideas what could have happened to either one of these folks, James or Jaryd, email and let us know what your thoughts are.
And again, we're not trying to say what happened. We're just throwing theories out there and making people think, and hopefully something will come of it. If not, they'll stay unsolved.
I'd love for anything for people to listen to these episodes and help solve a mystery.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. Somebody might know something or whatever. And we're only going by the information that we have. We weren't there. We weren't on the search party. Right.
We're going by what we've read or what we've heard or seen. So for all we know, we don't have all the information, but it's just enough to make it really, really mysterious and doesn't add up. So that's why we're here doing this. And there are possibilities that there could be things out there that people aren't aware of that are abducting people.
And if you don't know what you're protecting yourself against, how do you do it?
Exactly. Thanks, everyone, again, for the listens. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it a lot.
If you guys have had an encounter, as we always say, get a hold of us. Email us, info@cryptidcreatures.co. Where else can they find us at, Brian?
Instagram, Twitter.
Facebook. Reddit.
Now.
Go join our group page on Facebook and be a member there and hang out with us and share your stories.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, if you don't want to come on and tell your story, that's fine. Send it to us and we'll read it. Or if you don't mind if we read it online.
Email it to us. Instagram us, Facebook us, get it to us somehow. We'll read it. I got a couple here beside me that we're going to do one of these days.
Yep, we are going to do some reading, some encounters of people who chose not to come on. We're going to do a show on that. We're going to do more missing episodes, and we're also going to We're going to do a live show pretty soon, right, Brian?
Yes, that's the plan. So we want to get your guys' feedback on that. If you're in the Southwest Lower Michigan, Northern Central Indiana region, around that area, or even if you're in Illinois and you want to drive over here, let us know. Let us know what you think about coming out for a live show and hanging out with us for an hour or two.
Yep. If there's enough people in the area and we can get enough people to show up, we can get a place and we can hang out and
that's right.
And find a fine establishment that serves everything that's needed, and we can do a show. We're also going to do an online live show too, right, Brian?
Yeah, we're going to do an online one too for all of our people around the world, so everybody can join in.
We'll announce that out there either on an episode once we know for sure. Probably definitely announce it on Facebook and on our group page and on Reddit. Everywhere out there we'll announce it. But we'll be online here, and people can come on and click on the feed, and they can hang out and message. And if they want to talk, we can bring them on the screen to talk and just chit-chat with different people about different things.
I think that would be great. And you'll be able to put in, just regular old comments, and we'll read those too.
Yep. So we can talk about anything
as long as
cryptid.
they're respectful.
Yeah. We can talk about anything cryptid or whatever. We'll talk about some football. We'll talk about football.
Paranormal, cryptid, football. We like football. Baseball season's coming up.
Hopefully more paranormal cryptid. That's what we're shooting for. And we've got some stories to read. And Brian, we got a couple good jokes so we can tell on those stories too. So
we do.
Can't wait.
You guys will laugh your butts off.
Throw those out there. Definitely. So
that's right. Because we are hilarious.
We are. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Brian, appreciate it, man. As always.
Man, as always a good time.
All right. Until next time, you take care, brother, and we'll talk to you soon.
Right on, man. See ya.